Red, we've got that what is just a radar indicated tornado warning at this point until 10:30 this morning. This line moving east at about 50 miles an hour, so a very fast moving line, but we've kind of seen a little bit of rotation in some of this storm system. So we kind of look at it here and you can start to see just a little east of Johnson, that little couplet where those reds and greens and the outbounds and inbound radar comes together right there, producing that couplet there east of Johnston, I should say, in Edgefield, and just about to cross the Saluda County line any time now. Has been kind of going back and forth. If we've kind of monitored this one cell, it was showing rotation at least about 30 minutes ago, kind of pushing through parts of Edgefield and into Saluda County. So this extends all the way out into Saluda County. So in the path, I would say Ridge Spring, you probably want to get to your safe place right now, as well as anywhere along the Edgefield and Saluda County lines here, as this quickly moves off toward the east at about 50 miles an hour. So we do have a radar indicated. Haven't had any reports of this being a spotted tornado, but a radar indicated tornado warning continuing until 10:30 at this point here. So folks in eastern Edgefield and western Saluda County need to be in the safe place as we speak right now. We'll go back in here and look at just how wide this line extends south of even this one tornado warning. We're looking at the boxes shaded in orange. Well, that's all a severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're in Burke County, Waynesboro right now, it looks like the strongest of the line is just off to the east of you, but this has continued to kind of stack itself one by one, county by county, within the last hour and change of severe thunderstorm warnings here as we've gone on through. So also just about the entire Aiken County area, Orangeburg County now as well, a lot of the Midlands of South Carolina has kind of come into an area of conducive for a little bit of rotation here. So a radar indicated tornado warning in parts of Edgefield and southern Saluda County, kind of just about to pull in south of Lake Murray up closer to the Midlands, west of Columbia there. We can go back and look at still some heavy rain, but really not looking at a severe aspect of our storms in that western counties of the viewing area. Let's also look at the entire viewing area that's under a tornado warning until 2 p.m. for central and eastern counties here. Western counties like Wilkes all the way to Johnson County, that's going to be allowed to expire at 12. But this one here for the metro of Augusta, Richmond, Columbia, Edgefield, Aiken, all the way to the Midlands of South Carolina, that's going until 2 p.m. Keeping in mind also that this line of storms is quickly moving off to the east at 50 miles an hour or greater. And we've had mainly the risks of flash flooding and strong damaging winds. In fact, some of that line kind of begins to bow out like very strong straight line winds. You kind of notice it's breaking apart a little bit more as we've moved a little east of the metro here. So from downtown Augusta on westward, most of the really strong winds and more of the heavier rainfall seems to be off to the east. But kind of going back in here, if we can get back in here, Anthony, if you don't mind getting us back onto that tornado warning area in parts of eastern Edgefield and southern Saluda County, you can see where that red polygon is moving off toward the east. So it seems to kind of weaken quickly here. We'll just kind of monitor this situation. It's not a spotted tornado warning here, but there has been some rotation right around there as it's come into that eastern Edgefield, southern Saluda County line. So that's going to move into portions of Lexington County, South Carolina. Also includes just a little tip of northern Aiken County here. So also to the south, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings continuing outside of Wagner and Sally, South Carolina here. This is going to continue till about 10:30 with this warning. So definitely not the time to try to outrun this. It's best to be in a safe place if you can in southern Edgefield, western Saluda County as we kind of go on through looking at this storm system here. Also just off to the north of Saluda, we've got a pretty line of heavy rainfall for you, but certainly the worst of this is starting to affect areas in Saluda County. So we get back and look at velocity, which a moment ago showed a little bit more of a couplets, kind of reds and greens coming together. Doesn't seem to be showing as an intense. You can kind of, as we backed it up there, as Anthony is doing right now, as it was moving just east of Johnston in Edgefield County, started showing a little bit more of a signature of rotation. Now that we've kind of gotten into the current time, just a little after 10, seems to lose a little bit more of its rotation right there. We're also kind of keeping in touch touch with the National Weather Service in Columbia to see what they're saying as well. It doesn't appear that they've got anything spotted or that their concerns continue to increase as far as an actual tornado being spotted. But yeah, just keeping that eye on this area just along the Edgefield and Saluda County lines as we move on through at least the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. So this, if you're around the Ridge Spring, Monetta area, it'd be a good idea right now to be in a safe place, be indoors, lowest level of your home, interior room here for anywhere in this polygon, which stretches into the southern Midlands of South Carolina, parts of eastern Aiken. Doesn't look like you're really in too much of an issue there as that polygon kind of gets started just around the Johnston area. It's the rotation that's been kind of moving east of you, right along the county line there of Edgefield and Saluda. So that's going to continue to move eastward here. Within the next 30, 45 minutes, we'll continue to monitor that as it moves a little bit more into southern Saluda County. But just the fact that how long this line of storms is continuing to stay with us. We've got severe thunderstorm warnings, which stretch here from just outside of Saluda County all the way down towards parts of Burke and moving all the way down as far east as, let's say, Bamberg and Barnwell County, probably within the next hour or so. So we'll just continue to monitor that here in this situation. But going back, looking at the velocity, this really just kind of gives us a good indication of where we can start seeing some of that rotation coming together. Doesn't really look as prominent here south of Ward, but kind of in that area, Ridge Spring to Ward. As that moves on eastward here, that's kind of that volatile area right now here. So we'll continue, obviously, to stay with it here. But just kind of backing it out, if you don't mind, Anthony, just looking at those warnings where we continue to have the severe thunderstorm warnings, which stretch really from Saluda County all the way through the metro. Right now, the Augusta metro area has kind of seen the worst of the strong winds. Heard reports of maybe some trees down in parts of western Columbia County out near Harlem. If you're able to get some pictures, you can certainly send those in, but make sure you're in a safe location. It's not a very good idea at all, in fact, to be out traveling on some of these locations and roads that are definitely being hit by, again, some heavy rainfall here. But really not showing much of a, again, couplet as far as what we're looking at there. We kind of go into as far as what we can see and this line, which does extend here mainly from the Barnwell County area. Wagner, Sally, of course, looking down around Waynesboro. Heading on down into Burt County. You're probably going to have to switch to Max 2 if you don't mind, guys, back there, because one's locked up on us here. So if you can come to me right here, we'll just take it from there and just kind of drive it on home here. Thank you very much, though. We're looking at this one area that's got that tornado warning right there around eastern Edgefield, southern Saluda County. But again, any area here in that shaded Orange County, those are active severe thunderstorm warnings here. Stretches far south into Burt County, just outside of Jenkins County here with very heavy rain. There's already been reports of flash flooding here. This was a line that generated out of Alabama very early this morning, which was producing and had a history of some tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings here. So from the western Midlands here, Lexington, South Carolina, Lexington County, closer into the metro here of Aiken County, definitely looking. But we're kind of just really focused on that one little cell that's kind of right around the eastern Edgefield in southern Saluda County line, and that's, again, where we're looking at that active tornado warning here. We'll get a little information on when that'll be allowed to expire. So it still indicates that this is just radar indicated. Nothing's been spotted, I don't think, Anthony, from what you've been looking at as well?
I haven't seen much with the high-resolution radar either. That kind of started to fizzle out just as the radar that you guys see on the screen also started to go. But we did get a new message from the National Weather Service, and it looks like they are going to continue that for Aiken, Edgefield, and Saluda until about 10:30 or so. So they're still going to keep an eye on that. They have trimmed that warning itself back, so near Ward, continuing off toward the east, getting closer to that Batesburg, Leesville area, Ridge Spring, Monetta, that general area. They still have the warning for you guys, but the good news is that the rotation itself has become a lot more broad. You don't really see that classic couplet, but you still are under that tornado warning, so you still want to take this very seriously. And yeah, as Tim kind of goes back and forth with the radar there, you can kind of see how it started to fall apart just a little bit more.
Yeah, so thank you much right there. So we're kind of honed in very closely into Saluda County. As Anthony was just mentioning, they've extended that tornado warning just a little bit more east out of Edgefield County. Kind of still clips into a little bit of Edgefield County, but mostly Saluda, Lexington County, just outside of our viewing area here. But we're going to continue also to look just at this large line of storms that continues to threaten areas now closer into the Aiken area, Williston, Barnwell, even down east of Waynesboro here. So a good threat for very heavy rains, strong damaging winds. You can really see the bowing effect here from about western Aiken County down to eastern Burke County. And this line extends all the way outside of our viewing area, even down into the Swainsboro area. If you're along Highway 1, now it doesn't look worn down there, but just keep it in mind, this is really quickly moving off to the east at about 50+ miles an hour with this line of storms here. So kind of just going back in, I know we've got to stay on this one tornado warning as we move on through the next 30, 45 minutes. We really haven't been given any kind of indication that this has been a spotted tornado. Johnston, you were under that warning. It looks like that's east of you now, so you can more than likely come out. If you're in a safe spot, you can come out now, but it's still a good idea. If you're around Ridge Spring and Monetta, to be in a safe spot right there, right along, it looks like kind of State Road 392. Eventually, this could be crossing Highway 1 out of portions of Aiken County, just in between Ridge Spring and Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina. So that goes into more of Lexington County, South Carolina, with that polygon here. Stretching it back out, putting it into motion. This is, again, a very fast-moving line. The most severe of it is east of the Augusta area. We're just going to be experiencing here in Augusta, back to Thompson, maybe just some moderate to heavy rain, but certainly not the strong straight-line wind damage that we could possibly be seeing there. Anywhere from parts of central Saluda County, kind of just that little bit of a clip goes into the Saluda area. We're kind of close up into that. You are not included, the downtown Saluda area, in a tornado warning. Just a severe thunderstorm warning kind of extends right through the central and south central portion of Saluda County. It doesn't look like we start seeing some areas indicated Ward to Ridge Spring, Monetta, and eventually kind of pushing into Lexington County, South Carolina, that we see again, that line of storms that possibly could still have a little bit of rotation. And we'll kind of go back into the velocity mode. There's a little bit of a couplet right there east of Ridge Spring. It's been going back and forth, folks, for about the last half hour or so, kind of in and out of giving us a little bit of rotation, then we lose it, and then we start getting a little bit more of a couplet, kind of those reds kind of separated from those outbound images going away from the radar site, and then the greens coming in. When we get that little bit of a red displacement in the middle of some green right there, that does give us the indication that there could be some rotation. So right along, it looks like State Road 23, east of Ridge Spring, is where we just may have a little bit of rotation. So if you're in Monetta, you need to be in a safe spot. Ridge Spring to Monetta, you need to be in a safe spot. Basement if you've got it, lowest room in your home, most interior portion of your home as well. Highway 1 kind of into eastern Aiken County, closer into Lexington County, South Carolina. That seems to be about where it's going to be kind of moving along and off toward the east. But, you know, it's really just kind of hard to tell whether or not this is going to hold together. There's no mention that this is a spotted tornado again, so we'll just kind of keep it on there.
We've definitely noticed a lot of the breezier conditions associated with that boundary itself. So while the rotation in it might start to fall apart here, there's definitely some breezier conditions. And Tim, when you look down that line of severe thunderstorm warnings, you can really just see that bow echo that you were kind of talking about, that like half moon, reversed half moon shape that you have going on there, just to the northwest of Barnwell. Those are very gusty winds. The winds itself are just pushing the rain out in front of the main line. And when we switch a couple of radars around, while the rotation at the surface isn't really happening, we are starting to see that as you go higher up into the air. So that potential for more storms is definitely still there. And as this storm continues to push off to the east, places like Bamberg, all the way down through Allendale and Williston, those areas that are still dry will have a little bit longer to heat up just a little bit there. So we're going to have to kind of keep an eye on that guy as we go through. And it looks like they Okay, so they put out the severe thunderstorm warning for that. So that leads me to think that they're going to be getting rid of that tornado warning pretty soon.
Oh, yeah, and that's the one, the tornado warning we've been following out of Saluda, Edgefield County. I put a track on here just to kind of give some indications of where that really strong line of what could be some strong damaging winds will be affecting some of our counties here in the Millette area, Williston, Barnwell, Blackville, Hilda, Denmark, South Carolina. A lot of these really quickly moving into the South Carolina counties. Anytime between, our current time's 10:17, so in the Millette area and Williston between 10:19, 10:22. So this is quickly going to be on your doorstep within the next 5-10 minutes. But also just remembering that this is moving 50+ miles an hour, this line of storms. So if you're able to get some pictures after this passes, I certainly don't want to encourage you to go out and try to get pictures and send them us just so we can see. But this has had possibly a history of some damage reports with straight line winds in parts of Columbia County. Was getting maybe some reports near the Harlem or just west of the Harlem area with some downed trees. But Hilda, Denmark, South Carolina, 1036 to 1043 is where that track goes to. So kind of getting back into that tornado warning that we were just talking about here between Ridge Spring and the Batesburg-Leesville area, Ridge Spring, Monetta. We're still kind of keeping a very, very close eye on that. I'll kind of get back into velocity and see if we can kind of see just kind of south of State Road 23 along Highway 1, along that Saluda and Lexington County line. We're kind of Hibernia. If that's even an area, I don't mean any disrespect. Sometimes little towns will pop up and it may not actually be a town, but somewhere the radar is kind of picking up as we get a little bit closer to it. But a good indication that right around State Road 39 in Saluda County, Highway 1, just kind of where I'm zoomed in, kind of where I just said, Hibernia would be about where this rotation seems to be somewhat trying to hold together here, west of 391, moving closer into western Lexington County, South Carolina. So I'll put it into motion a little bit more, get back into the reflectivity here. But if you're in Ridge Spring, it doesn't look like we've got the most severe aspect of that line in your area or ward, even though the polygon still does include you. But still, if you're Ridge Spring, Monetta, I'd stay in your safe place. Definitely if you're east of Ridge Spring, if you live along Highway 23, kind of just outside of Ridge Spring, closer to Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina, Nice, Chickabiddy Falls.
And Tim, let me just jump in here real quick. So from the National Weather Service chat, one of the programs that they have is they Skywarn spotters, and back closer to about 10:15 or so, when this system was further off to the east, it looks like there was a spotter-sighted tornado near Woodyard Road and Egghouse Road. That's closer to Johnson, South Carolina. So not in that area anymore, but that's when that warning was first issued, when we did see that little bit of a couplet be on the radar there. So it looks like there might have been an actual tornado on the ground at one point, but no longer in Johnson. You can see, if you back it up just a little bit there, you can start to see that rotation coming together a little bit more. This is where they issued that tornado warning, and I wouldn't be surprised right there, right about just to the east of Johnson. Yeah, look at that. That is a good couplet.
Pretty good signature right there.
So even if it was just a brief little tornado on the ground, that was spotted, and then it continued to move off toward the east. This is why we always say take this seriously. It might just look a faint couplet on radar, but that could still have the opportunity to reach the ground. So you always want to take a tornado warning very seriously, even though if it doesn't look the best signature on radar itself. There's a reason why they posted the warning.
Yeah, and there's a possibility that that could just get extended just because it's had a history already of possibly a spotted tornado. Going back and widening out a little bit more, you're still under the gun here for some very, very strong damaging winds out of parts of southern Aiken County. And down towards Allendale County, too, here. So.
And they just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning for Allendale County. This is coming from the National Weather Service in Charleston. And we're starting to notice just a little bit more rotation just to the northeast of Millett, right along 125, South Carolina 125. So the possibility for isolated tornadoes is going to continue along this line of storms. If you're just joining us, if you're in the Augusta area right now, not looking like any severe weather for you guys, this is going to be happening right along the boundary itself, and Tim has it zoomed in pretty nicely there. I'm going to pull up the high resolution in a second, Tim. If you want to kind of you want to click on that guy for me there.
Sure. And so right around 125 here is what we're looking at. We're going to change the radar just a little bit so Anthony can kind of get up a little bit closer in.
So this is where I'm looking right here. This is our high resolution radar. It does a little bit better of a job starting to show rotation there. So where the reds meet up with the yellow, that's where we do have the strongest spin, at least, kind of going on right now. So we're going to keep a close eye both on that area of the CSRA, our southern counties and eastern counties. We still have that tornado warning just around the Ridge Spring area. This is going to be moving outside the CSRA, and I think at this point, looking at this, it looks like most of that rotation has now actually left the CSRA and has now moved into Lexington County there. Yeah. We'll zoom into this a little bit more. It looks like
they're talking about that rotation that we've been showing for the last half hour still, and there is a possibility that they'll extend that into Lexington County, which does move east out of our viewing area, but you still might be able to pick us up on the air in parts of western Lexington County, kind of the chat talking from the National Weather Services. They might continue that tornado warning there in parts of southwestern Lexington County. But also down around the Allendale County area, Barnwell County, that one couplet that we've been watching still holding together pretty well. It's a pretty decent signature right along 125 northwest of Millette. This is just a severe thunderstorm warning at this time, Anthony, with that line of storms.
Yeah, and there's the really gusty winds. So Williston, you're about to see some pretty gusty winds there, and there's that area of rotation that we are going to keep an eye on. But the latest from the National Weather Service, they've actually canceled the tornado watch for both the Augusta area, so Richmond County, Columbia County, McDuffie, Lincoln, and McCormick County. We'll have to wait for the National Weather Service in Atlanta to see if they want to cancel
that may be why it's blinking. They might just kind of be updating. That's why it's blinking. They're doing some updates, as Anthony was just talking about here. But still, Wilkes all the way to Emmanuel. Still the county's in yellow. It's still active until it goes away here. We've had significant winds. We could be looking at 50 to 60 plus mile an hour wind gusts, especially with that line that Anthony was just talking about here. So around Sally, South Carolina, Wagner, here you can really just see the Boeing effect. I mean, there's just those straight line winds just punching east quickly, 50 to 60. They're on you before you realize it, so it's still a good idea. It wouldn't be a bad idea to be in a safe place just with the strong damaging winds. I mean, you can see down trees with straight line wind damage just as much as you can have a weak tornado. And they still have that little tornado warning that's still active, right? Kind of just almost outside of Saluda County and going towards western Lexington County. There.
And Tim, I just heard from the Weather Service that they are going to allow that tornado warning to expire. Okay. It does look like most of the rotation itself, like what we've been saying, has actually left the polygon itself, but they will allow that to expire in the next few minutes here. I think we should start to focus a little bit more on, I think the most impactful thing right now is going to be those severe thunderstorm warnings from Wagner all the way through Allendale. Just an incredible bow echo there. You're going to get a lot of high wind values there. I'll switch this over to velocity. Yeah. And essentially the brighter the colors, the higher the wind speed there. And right there.
That's where Anthony's getting in right here, folks, right around the Williston and eventually probably Barnwell area here. So this is, I mean, just shooting quickly here. 60 plus miles an hour off to the east. So right now that's the main concern with those strong winds. You can just see it kind of bowing out. When we talk about bow echoes on a radar, it's the squall line. You start bowing out, you know that's got significant winds pushing behind it here. So we kind of go back and look into the metro. Doesn't appear that we've got much of a threat. We started noticing those watches being allowed to expire. There's still going to be some bit of a breeze, but there also still could be some heavy rain. I mean, these are echoes returning back in from Edgefield County all the way back into McDuffie County. Still some heavy rains. I mean, you can see some of those darker returns coming in portions of western looks like Jefferson County, pardon me. So anywhere around Louisville, Rennes, we'll watch you for as well, but certainly the strongest and most severe line is kind of moving east of the river at this point, but trains all the way down into parts of northern Florida here. So as we kind of recap once again here, we're at 10:26. We've still got that active tornado warning, but chatting the Weather Service out of Columbia seems to, the talk is that they may let that expire here, but certainly not expiring are the severe thunderstorm warnings, which stretch out of western Aiken County or eastern Aiken County from about Lexington County, South Carolina, the Midlands, from Wagner, Sally, Williston, Barnwell. Boy, it's got to be really, really windy right now along 78 in Williston. No doubt about that. You're probably starting to see the winds and hear the winds pick up quite a bit there in Barnwell, South Carolina. But yeah, Williston, you are smack dab in the middle. Yeah, talking about the brighter colors, the stronger the wind gusts. These could be exceeding 60+ miles an hour, so it's a good idea to be in a safe place there. So all of the counties that are still in there in orange are active severe thunderstorm warnings, as it mentions right here, until 10:45. So we've still got another 15+ minutes for this active warning. The threat does also include, keep in mind, a possibility of a tornado right there. And we had one report just to the western parts of Edgefield County that there was possibly a spotted tornado. Of course, we can't confirm that, but Spotter Network was saying they did see some rotation and spotted a tornado in parts of Edgefield County about 30 minutes ago, just a little bit after 10 o'clock. We were showing that one here. So kind of getting some reports, certainly a lot of wind gust and wind damage reports out of portions of Jefferson and also Washington County there where those little icons are popping up. Those are what we've seen as far as wind damage reports here. Trees down along Highway 171, approximately 4 miles east there in parts of western Jefferson County there. Also in Washington County there, some wind damage reported, roof taken off of a house. So we're talking significant winds if roofs are getting peeled off. So just kind of going back as far as what the radar is actively showing, still some heavy rain around the metro, but it's just this line of really strong, damaging winds that are going to continue to threaten areas. Williston, Barnwell, even around Millette. That's the Millette area we've been watching for potential rotation. We've got it on velocity. I'm telling you right now, that's a pretty decent signature coming in north of Millette. It would be a good idea for you to be in a safe place as well. And this is trending off toward the east. Of course, we'll continue to monitor what the National Weather Service out of Columbia and Charleston are maybe talking about this. But if you're around Millette, we're definitely going to be watching this signature quite a bit because we've got pretty good rotation potentially going on in there, Anthony. I don't know. He's watching it too.
We're going to keep a close eye on that area too. I just want to relay some more info from the National Weather Service. So it looks like they have allowed that tornado warning around Aiken County to expire, but they have gotten reports that law enforcement has been able to spot a tornado in Edgefield County that was a little bit earlier, and it was near Highway 23 that was heading toward Batesburg. They're going to keep a close eye on it. It looks like the rotation itself in that area has started to go down, but they're going to keep an eye on that as that moves out of the CSRA and into Lexington County, as Columbia will start to be watching this a little bit more. Yeah, it looks like with that itself, it looks like most of that rotation has now kind of continued to move outside of the CSRA along I-20 near Gilbert, and this is going to continue to get closer to the Columbia area. They're getting pretty close to the Columbia radar. But that polygon on your screen, that tornado warning, has been allowed to expire, but we are going to keep a close eye on some of our southern counties where we still have some rotation embedded with some of that straight line wind, those echoes that we've been seeing a lot. We talk about a bow echo like this where you see that curve, and whenever you start to get little kinks in the line there, that's where we have to start paying attention a little bit more. So when you flip back and forth between the radar and the velocity, you can start to see those little pockets of higher winds, and that's where we can start to get some of that rotation going on. Yeah, that was this really bright areas where at times Anthony's going in and out of the Williston area, and that's where the most significant winds are. So there's going to be, no doubt, it seems like reports are coming in of wind damage across portions of Barnwell, Aiken County. Wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be some wind damage reports coming out of parts of McDuffie County, maybe western Columbia County as well. We go back and we look at the active watches. So yeah, there has been more and more
more counties been allowed to see that tornado watch expire. And that makes sense because the strongest of the line is well east of this area. It doesn't really seem at this point to pose a threat. So from McCormick, Lincoln County all the way to Johnson County, that has been allowed to expire, even around the Richmond and Columbia County area, too. So a few metro counties have also been allowed to expire for the current tornado watch, but we're still obviously in that tornado watch from Saluda County all the way to Screven, Jenkins County. Emmanuel County looks like an update's coming there, possibly dropping you out in Emmanuel County and just around I-16. But this line, boy, it's been moving fast here to about 50 to 60 plus miles an hour with the movement. Of course, radar's got still very strong, what could be some damaging winds associated with this. So from Williston, Barnwell, and so forth off to the east in Bamberg County and eastern Aiken County, you really need to be watching this line carefully, staying with us right here. So from Springfield, Highway 78, Barnwell, all the way to Allendale. Even though the storm line is not even on you, Allendale, yet, this is quickly moving off toward the east here. So we go back to kind of looking at velocity around Millette. There's no tornado warning, but there's certainly something going on in that little couplet right there, just along Highway 125, kind of just around the Millette area, and this is moving off toward the east here. So anywhere along Highway 3, there we go. We got another active tornado warning. Anthony's going to get on that.
Yeah, I'll click on that for you. Yeah, so like we mentioned, let's see if this is, so this is actually a little bit different. So this is actually going back to Aiken County. I'll put this back on the radar for you, Tim.
Sure.
So it looks like just that line itself, you get little tiny pockets developing, and yeah, we have another tornado warning. This is near the Wagner area. This is going to continue to move off to the east. I'll throw the velocity on there. Definitely a little bit more stronger of a signature, those brighter areas of green that you see there.
Where we start getting the rotation, really bright white to green, and then along the red right there, 113, State Road 113 seems to be where that center of rotation is, just to the south of State Road 39 here.
And Tim, I'm just going to throw the high resolution on. It does a little bit of a better job kind of showing that rotation. So between Wagner and Perry, remember the red means it's moving away from the radar, the green means it's moving toward the radar, and this is where you get that little couplet of rotation. This is using the radar going off of the Charleston area radar, so red moving to the north, green moving to the south, and this is where you have a little bit of rotation kind of popping up there on the screen. We're also keeping an eye. I wouldn't be surprised if they issue some tornado warnings in near Barnwell as well as near Allendale. We do have some pretty tight couplets on the screen as well, so just going to keep a close eye on this line as it does continue to develop. As it pushes off toward the east. Lots of high moisture values in that area. They've been able to warm a little bit more than everybody else, so we'll have to keep a close eye on that too. Yeah, it's just gotten into more of a favorable environment to see rotation. Kind of, well, why wasn't it tornadoes before it got into Richmond County and the Augusta area? I mean, that's good, but that didn't mean that it was a weak storm, but it just continued to get in a more favorable, drier environment with really strong southerly winds ahead of this line, and then bam, over the last hour, this thing has just erupted here. But this was likely. This was the outlook that we could see isolated tornadoes with this risk from even yesterday. Kind of the outlook was possibly isolated tornadoes and strong damaging winds and heavy rain. We're in on that same tornado warning. It is until 11 o'clock here. It's radar indicated here. It includes counties like Aiken, Calhoun, Lexington, Orangeburg. Calhoun, Lexington, and Orangeburg out of the CSRA, but still parts of Aiken County definitely included here. We've had what could be some very strong damaging winds out of the Williston-Barnwell area too. So this is going to be moving off toward the east very, very quickly here. In fact, Anthony, if you don't mind throwing a track up there on around the Wagner area where there could be the circulation going on as we speak. So this kind of includes areas just around 321 North South Carolina, the town of North South Carolina there. But along 39 is where we kind of see this tracking on toward the east. So if you're in Blackville, Gaston, Swansea, now this is closer into the Midlands, southern Midlands of South Carolina, outside of the viewing area. But if you're picking this up, you can see just about the time frame that we're looking at for this warned tornado warning line of storms to be moving to the east. So yeah, we're going to be watching this. Severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings continuing closer to the Atlanta area. But just look how broad this line is as it's
still holds together within the last hour and a half here. So from eastern Saluda County all the way down through Allendale County, South Carolina, is where we've got either severe thunderstorm warnings active or just this one area which is a tornado warning here. Around the Wagner area, if you're certainly around Wagner, is where we really saw some tight couplets there and possibly some rotation. So this is going to continue to move on eastward here within the next 45 minutes or so. So 321, I mean, it's going to go smack right over 321 and Highway 3 in portions of South Carolina here. So we've got velocity back up. Really just kind of, it comes and goes. I'm telling you, sometimes it's really tough. But where we've got that brighter green and some reds kind of coming together with the inbound and outbound going radar, that's where we see a little bit more of that center. But there is certainly going to be reports of wind damage along this area that has nothing but just severe thunderstorm warnings. So Springfield, South Carolina, Blackville, Hilda, that line goes all the way down. I mean, just how long? About a 3-4 county line that we've had this very strong line of storms moving off toward the east, but certainly kind of mainly focused on where there could be some rotation there. And in even a potential spotted tornado in parts of Edgefield County. This is that one little spot we were watching around Millette. It's off to your east now a little bit more. It is not a tornado warning, but still included in a severe thunderstorm warning. So Klein to Allendale, looks like 278. 278 from Barnwell to Allendale. Definitely get off the road there, get into a safe spot. Not the fact that it's a tornado warning, but just the strong straight line winds that are going to be in excess of 60+ miles per hour as what the history of this line of storms, mainly for the severe thunderstorm warning, has been including here. So anywhere between. Actually, it looks like Highway 78 going from Williston, you get down into Barnwell, Klein, Allendale. That's where that very strong line of winds is going to continue to stay with us here for the next 30 to 45 minutes. So we haven't really seen any weakening with the line of wind, but still just kind of keeping them.
And there's you can definitely still see plenty of, like you mentioned, Tim, a lot of very high wind gusts, especially in the northern half of Barnwell County, right around 78, Route 78 there near Blackville, stretching up South Carolina Route 3. That's where the main front itself is coming through, and where they're talking about some pretty gusty winds. I mean, if you take a look at that, you can just see the very bright areas of green just kind of mixed in between all of that with, along with heavy rainfall going on. That is high rainfall rates for sure. So you're definitely getting a good soaking along with some of those stronger winds.
Springfield to Blackville, Hilda, South Carolina, eastern Aiken County. Kind of seems like the strongest of the wind gusts are now east of the Barnwell area.
And, Tim, it does look like they did issue, not for our area, but they did reissue a tornado warning for the Lexington area just outside of Columbia.
Right.
So just that same system that we were watching in some of our northern counties not too long ago, that's now starting to move into the Columbia area. So they're going to keep a close eye on that.
Yeah, and it's going to, it may be tomorrow, since we had, we did have a trained spotter report a possible tornado in Edgefield County just like 1 or 2 minutes after 10. It will take probably till tomorrow if there's going to be a survey done on that, if there is damage. But most of this damage, the reports we're starting to kind of see come in are from straight line winds. But that doesn't mean we don't have any rotation going on, because you can see included Wagner, Sally in that tornado warning. Now, looks like what could be the strongest of, if there is rotation, is east of Wagner and Sally, kind of just along and west of Highway 3, north of 389. There's very strong winds from the town of Thor. Okay, so that's kind of just to the outside of Lexington County, South Carolina, I should say. Where we're finding what could be still some rotation. So nothing has been spotted with this tornado warning that's kind of just in the easternmost portion of Aiken County and kind of sliding into the southern Midlands of South Carolina. So this will put a risk of I-26, if it holds together, closer into the town of North and Swansea, South Carolina. I'm going to widen it out just a little bit more, put back the reflectivity here as far as we can see going into... I was on the wrong radar, wasn't I? I apologize for that. Thank you, Anthony. We had to switch earlier. But this is where that line is that we're watching. Some very heavy rain. Sally to Wagner, more than likely moving out of Aiken County probably within the next 30 minutes or so. We'll put it into motion there, just kind of looking at how quickly that line's been moving in. But also that tornado warning, which jumped outside of Saluda County, closer into Lexington, South Carolina, and Columbia. That's where that one is. That's the only areas of tornado warnings we find. But other than that, we are dealing with some very strong straight-line winds from Springfield, South Carolina, through Barnwell, going down all the way into Allendale County, I should say. In Klein, you're all included in a severe thunderstorm warning. But you can see that line of very heavy rain. Doesn't appear that there's rotation. There's no talk about it, other than the fact that those little cells are up there still, including a little rotation closer to Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina, and eastern Aiken County. That's where we've got that tornado warning, a couple of polygons there in red. The Metro of Augusta, just kind of recapping, no severe weather threat. The actual tornado watch has been dropped in the Metro of Richmond and parts of Columbia County and a lot of our western counties there as far as what we're looking at here. But the severe weather threats well east of the Metro of Augusta. Still some rain at times, and what rain that's already come down and just kind of adding more to it could still pose in some of those low-lying areas and areas that don't drain very well, possible flooding risk as well. But just the extension of this line right now, which goes all the way from just west of Columbia, South Carolina. In fact, it looks like they've kind of updated a little bit of that tornado warning, kind of still shifting it. There's still parts of Aiken County, folks, that are included in that tornado warning. I'm kind of getting on a little bit closer to it of what we're looking at as far as
the farthest eastern corner of Aiken County. That's where you guys are going to be watching at the most. There's that couplet.
I mean, it's
you
right
can
on
see
the
it is
line.
right on the line of Aiken County and moving into, I believe that's Orange. Is that Orangeburg County?
Yeah,
or is that,
Orangeburg and kind of the far southern Lexington County area. So a good broad portion of Aiken County not included in that, just this one small little area. It's kind of, I mean, it's right on the county line there of Lexington and Aiken County.
And I'm still taking a look at some of our southern counties, Tim, too. I'm using the high-res radar, and we are still just seeing, you know, when you get a boundary like this, it is moving a lot of air at one time, and that can kind of kink the chain, if you will, and that could lead to a few more tornado warnings. So yeah, when we guys see on your screen there, if you're in Denmark right now, if it's pretty nice outside right now, it's not going to be that way in the next few minutes. You're going to be seeing some very gusty winds. This is along Route 78 in South Carolina, between Blackville and Denmark, some very heavy rainfall. I wouldn't be surprised if this had a really good shelf cloud to this as well, between Denmark, Olar, going all the way down through the Ulmer area, Allendale. You guys are going to be keeping an eye on this as well. Klein, you're also seeing this moving through your area right now, probably experiencing some very gusty winds. And that is just going to be continuing to move again, kind of off to the east-southeast as this line continues to kind of bow out. But we've noticed a little bit more kinks in the last couple of frames there. Tim, I'm gonna drive real quick for you.
I'll point it out too, and you put them on highlighted.
That'd be helpful. So you guys can see a lot of these kind of kinks in the chain. It used to be, I'll back the radar up a little bit more. It used to be just a uniform, just line boundary right there, just around the Barnwell area. Notice how that shape is very curved. It's very smooth. But then as we've kind of transitioned over the last what is it now? The last half hour or so, there are it's a little bit more bumpy. So that indicates, you know, it's trying to get just that little bit of pockets of rotation. When we switch the velocity on, this is where we definitely can see those individual pockets of rotation. Now the question is, how much rotation is there, and does that warrant a tornado warning? Right now, not seeing just that enough rotation to really actually cause a tornado warning to be issued, but there is definitely rotation going on in the atmosphere there.
Yeah, and that, again, just keep it in mind, even though we maybe don't have rotation, still the very strong straight line winds. If this really bright green area, Norway, South Carolina, kind of the far easternmost portion of Aiken County, kind of is where we start seeing just a little bit of that tornado warning kind of in the area of far eastern Aiken County, going more into the Columbia metro area, south of Columbia, more into Orangeburg County there. But there's no doubt there's going to be straight line wind damage from this line, which continues. As this line moves quickly east, 60+ miles per hour, winds possibly gusting 60-plus miles per hour with this line, as we have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings that stretch just to the west of Columbia, South Carolina, all the way to Allendale County. So we've still got it on velocity. We're still just kind of monitoring areas that could be showing a little bit more of rotation, as Anthony's kind of highlighting right here, as we've got kind of that swirl going on, the red outbound going towards the radar, away from the radar site, and the greens coming in. That's where we start seeing, again, that circular motion happening right along 178. Yep. So this is 178, kind of just to the south and east of the Thor area in South Carolina. So again, just a very bad idea to be on Highway 3, State Road 3 in parts of South Carolina too. It's trending outside of our viewing area, but we're still kind of holding on, just watching it as it gets a little bit closer to what could be Woodford and Swansea, South Carolina, the town of North South Carolina as well.
And Tim, I just put up the high resolution radar for you. It does a little bit job. It kind of cancels out some of the noise going on there, and you can really see that couplet just a little bit better there. So like you just mentioned, just to the west of Woodford.
Yeah, and this is what he was just drawing, talking about the circular motion here, the radar bands going away and coming into the radar site. When you start getting that little bit more of a reds and greens kind of displaced, but more circular together, that's where we're starting to see a little bit more of that rotation there. So there could be possible spottings happening. We just aren't seeing that. We're monitoring the chat with the Columbia National Weather Service. We've continued to just get numerous reports of wind damage. I think we're going to see a lot more than actual spotted tornadoes here, just because of this very long line and bowing effect of the storm system. Red Bank's in Lexington, South Carolina, Lexington County, Gaston, kind of south of Columbia here. So this is really where a lot of the storm systems are quickly passing off to the east outside of the viewing area.
And Tim, I just wanted to pull this up quick. So if anyone has any family between Lexington and Columbia, that warning that you see now is in white. So that means it is an observed tornado on the ground
right here.
Just outside of Columbia, to the west of Columbia, just to the south of Lexington. Definitely can see some more radar. It's getting into a funky spot because it's getting very, very close.
Here's the radar site at the Columbia Metro Airport. So once it starts really getting close, it kind of loses the effect right there a little bit more. But what Anthony's talking about, and it's hard to kind of transpire. You've got the interstates lined in white, but it's kind of just outside of Lexington. It draws a little bit thicker line, kind of gets more of a polygon shape, but it's in white, kind of includes areas just to the west of Columbia. So Red Bank,
it's very hard to see. I'm going to draw this for you guys so you can see where we're actually talking about. And, you know, I just lost it myself. There it is right here. Right. Let me see if I can draw it. That is where the tornado would be. This little guy right here, as that kind of continues to kind of push toward just south of the radar site.
I mean, this is kind of going towards the Columbia Metropolitan Airport here. So this is just outside. If you're familiar, and a lot of you may be, and if you've got family around the South Congaree area in southern Lexington County, near the airport there is where, just outside of Columbia, near the radar site there, and that's where that possibility of the track of that spotted tornado is headed towards. So definitely that's going to be a big problem right there. But just extending down into very strong straight line winds. I mean, we're looking at very, very long line, covering almost 3 counties of straight line winds right now. Still an active tornado warning with that one, kind of right along, cuts right through 321 in the town of North South Carolina. East of Springfield now, you did have very strong winds yourselves here. From Wagner, Sally, Springfield, looks like the strongest of the straight line winds are east of you. And you're not included in a tornado warning here from Wagner and Sally and Springfield, but that polygon's still active with the tornado warning, which is west of I-26. So just around 176. A lot of the southern Midlands of South Carolina is where this a line of very strong winds and what is an observed tornado with that polygon. You can kind of see it a little bit better now, drawn in a thicker white fashion, which could be a spotted tornado headed towards the Columbia Metropolitan Airport right there, is where some of that rotation is being picked up here. Augusta, most all of the metro area here, we're looking clear with nothing more than maybe a breeze, to at times a little bit of a moderate rainfall here. But we kind of look at the latest watches. Since there is no more real threat, we're starting to see more and more counties drop off as far as the tornado watch here, especially right here in Richmond, Columbia County, which makes a lot of sense because the strongest line is what we've been watching here for about the last 45 minutes, and we've really honed in outside of Allendale County, also in the southern Midlands here. So this is definitely going to stay under a watch, no doubt about that, and even with observed tornadoes right there. So
and the Weather Service was agreeing with you, Tim. They did put out a statement saying that they're keeping an eye on that tornado just around, just south and west of the Columbia Airport. So that's likely going to pass south of the airport. So they're going to keep a close eye on that there. But yeah, a lot of breezy conditions along that boundary for sure. Lots of heavy rainfall too.
Yeah, rainfall rates. We don't see any active flash flood warnings coming up. I think a lot of it is having to do with just the rotation and the thunderstorms and the strong straight line winds that are associated with this line as it came in. Really, once it got a little bit closer to Augusta over the last hour and a half, that's where it really started hitting to more of a favorable environment of some rotation. We started getting more and more of that shear with the turning winds with height as we've gotten higher in the atmosphere here. So this line, it's been holding together for over an hour, producing very, very strong straight line winds. We've got a spotted tornado. It's still active. And yes, as the Weather Service chat is talking about, that's where they're talking to us from. The Weather Service right there at the Columbia Metro Airport here, and where they could be dealing possibly with a tornado on the ground, or at least one has been spotted just to the west of the airport. So most of western Lexington County, Aiken County, it looks like you're in the clear for the really strong, severe aspect. We've got just a little bit of you in Aiken County, kind of east of Wagner. That's it does include you in the polygon, but it doesn't appear likely that you've got any real threat. Although just still keep in mind you might want to stay in that safe place until this is allowed to expire. Most of the real intense line and severe line is out of Aiken County, kind of in southern Lexington County and down towards Orangeburg County here.
And Tim, I wouldn't be surprised now going back to this tornado warning here now in Orangeburg County, right on the Orangeburg-Lexington County line there, Woodford, and the latest frame kind of updates here, really seeing that rotation in play. And when you put on our debris signature, it's not looking like the best signature, which is good news for us. Yeah. We'll play this back as that line comes in. Really nothing crazy to see there. Definitely some heavy rainfall, and we'll go back to velocity. And there is that couplet signature. We'll go back. I'll step this back a couple of frames to about here, right along US 321
north of Woodford.
Yeah, right north of Woodford. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some damage there, if they had some, if there was a tornado on the ground at one point, just because of that tight couplet that we've seen. And this was the same type of signature that we saw back in Johnson, South Carolina, not too long ago. And that was able to produce a tornado that was on the ground. It didn't look like the best signature, and we didn't really see anything when we turned our debris tracker on. But that is just something that we'll kind of just keep watching with more of these little couplets starting to pop up along this boundary. We'll zoom out the picture there a little bit more for you guys to see. We'll go through some of our southern counties there. I think this picture has actually improved for us, Tim.
It has within the last 5-10 minutes. There's still active severe thunderstorm warnings, parts of Allendale County and Hampton County, South Carolina. So starting to get more and more out of our viewing area, with the exception now of still Allendale and Bamberg County. Bamberg-Earhart still along 601. You could probably be experiencing anywhere between Olar and Ulmer some strong straight line winds there, but you're still under that severe thunderstorm warning here. We just haven't seen the tornado warnings with this. So it'll be real interesting to see kind of the after effects over the next couple of hours as this line of storms goes in. And they've kind of, there you go. We just showed you that where that possibility of rotation was continuing, they've extended that tornado warning. Now, this is outside of our viewing area.